Hey guys, how are you? Okay, it's a fantastic day, very long day. I had a very tight packed schedule of my work, but I am now doing the recording because the master class has to go on. Whether there is busy schedule or not, learning never stops. Today, we are going to talk about something very, very important. This topic is something which is useful for every human being, whether you are in business, whether you are a student, whether you are, you're working somewhere. The topic of today is negotiation. This gives you an excitement. The minute you get a word called negotiation, it gives a bit of excitement because negotiation is basically done to increase the satisfaction level of any transaction. Generally what people say is that like I somebody said the product cost me $10, but I negotiated and got for $5. So in their mind they won $5. That's a great set of relief, satisfaction, and some kind of an accomplishment. There was a transaction and there was a negotiation, and during the negotiation process I did my process and then I gained something either in terms of value or in terms of money or in terms of kind or in terms of satisfaction. So, what is a negotiation? As you already know, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I saw a brilliant presentation in SlideShare. I will give you the link of that SlideShare here. I will give proper credit and like attributes to the person name is Mohammed Aman. It's a brilliant presentation. I thought, why not we take that presentation as just as reference, build it with my own personal experience and stories and learnings and things like that, so that you can actually learn what a negotiation process is all about. Let me tell you something. Everybody of us know what a negotiation is. So if you are expecting this negotiation, whatever that I'm going to train or tell right now is going to be used for your day-to-day affairs, it is not the case. If you are going to expect this kind of a negotiation technique to be applied for your normal day-to-day activity in your office, it is not going to work. Or it may work or it may not work. It is not intended for that. So let me put a scope of discussion. The scope of discussion is we are going to talk about negotiation strategy, negotiation planning, and how to execute the negotiation process for a structured deal where the interaction is going to be personal. You may be laughing because during the COVID period, I'm now talking about personal relationship. But hey, come on, positivity is life. There will be a day where we are going to sit back and then we are going to look back and say that yes, we won against Corona. That is a time where we are going to come back to our normal, and then all these human interaction, business interactions are going to start. Let us go into the process. I have a slide which is beautiful, and I want to probably share it with you. And this slide, I am again telling you, this slide is done by Mohammed Aman. Okay, and we are going to use this slide only as a reference. Fill it up with our own stories, and we can understand the process. You can download this slide, you can refer to the slide, the link is given in the description of it, proper credit and attributes are given. So going forward, what is a negotiation? As I actually told you, negotiation is a process where two people or two organizations get involved and then they talk as a process of conclusion. Either it can be a deal or an arrangement or whatever it is. and in turn they will arrive at some solution. So the solution can be business, the solution can be services, the solution can be starting a business, continuing the business, or even ending a business. Not needed that negotiation is always only for start or only for purchase. Okay, it is for everything. So according to according to us, like what exactly happens behind this negotiation process. As a human being, we are all very how to say, we are all very anxious. Every human being is different. Every person is different, and uh, uh, there are activities where we want to make sure that there is that extra one bit of satisfaction we want to derive out of it, because I want this to be done the way that I want to be done. I want to do it. This is something, it's not a rocket science. Like you have the same idea, I have the same idea, and I think everybody in this world have the same idea. So if that is the case, there arise some kind of an imbalance during the conversation. And how to balance the conversation and how to arrive at a common solution, that's exactly what negotiation is all about. So a collection of behavior involving communication, which involves psychological assertiveness and the conflict resolution. Let us try to dismantle this word and try to understand based on a story. You are probably going to, let's say you have pitched for a project. It's $100 project, and then you're going and doing a presentation. Your prospect is going to tell that, okay, everything is perfect, but I cannot pay you $100. I will pay only, let's say, $60. You definitely know that $60 is not the price of that particular product or particular service. He also knows $60 is not the price of the product or price of the service. So what happens then? You will start portraying the activity, what is called as the initial assertiveness towards justification of your money. You will probably say that, hey, you know what? Because of reason one, two, three, and four, I cannot get you any reduction in price. 100 is already a very nominal price. Generally, this is how negotiations start. Correct. What they are going to come back and say, generally how it happens, three type of things happen. One is the company will probably be an expert, the prospect will probably be an expert, and he will come and tell you that, you know what, we exactly know what is to be done. We know the scope of the work. We know how long it is going to take. So according to us, 100 is not the rate. So that is a direct approach. Number two, a comparative analysis approach, where they are going to come back and tell you that, you know what, exactly the same RFP, the request for proposal, RFP we circulated in the market, and a bigger company than you or a more experienced company than you has quoted less than $100. So that's a comparative way. The third, which is normally something which most of the prospect use, is simulated rejection. The simulated rejection itself is a very big psychological act. They will portray in a way that they are not no more interested in the deal if you are probably going if you are not going to accept that this $100 cannot be reduced. So they will probably show what is called as a withdrawal syndrome. They will say that, okay, we are not interested. If you cannot do it, like, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go. You know for sure that they are not leaving, and they also know for sure that they cannot leave. These are the three broad ways a prospect generally reacts to any kind of an offer. Generally, we get to see their body action if we are in person. In today's date, if at all you're doing it in phone or if you're doing it in video conferencing, I'm not sure how much you will be able to read their body language. So if you actually look into the body language, and if you are an experienced person, you can actually guess how desperate are is your prospect with regards to the quotation that you have given. I can narrate you a lot of stories, right from the smallest of the smallest till presenting to a very large audience, like getting a branding deal for a from an Olympic committee. Think about how much of negotiation would happen in that boardroom. Yes, my company, Media Matrix, we are involved in direct and indirect activities with regards to Olympics for three consecutive Olympics, and fourth, we are expecting we will be part of it also. So, when I'm talking about negotiation, I I can just tell my own stories, and then it can go for days together. There, not exactly every strategy works. Just just let me tell you one more time. This video is not for giving you 100% success rate. It is not possible. This video is to give you the basic, and I will also tell you stories where my negotiation skill did not work. That is where the learning process starts. Whether you are a student, whether you are a startup entrepreneur, or you are also a mature entrepreneur, where you can relate the stories with what I am actually telling right now. So, coming back, all we are trying to do is, it's almost like a crying baby. Why does a baby cry? Either it wants food, or it is telling you that, hey, you know what, the food is processed and it has already come out, better clean it up. Do you recollect what I'm saying? So, a negotiation actually starts with some kind of a information. You will have some event has to trigger a negotiation. For what? You are going to reach to an agreement for it. You are going and buying a product. The shopkeeper is saying that this product is going to cost $10. How did the shopkeeper first arrive at the pricing to you? Because you made a selection there. So there is an event, and based on the event, the trigger event is a cost is being put, or a price is being offered, and then your discussion starts. You are going to come back and say that no, I think this is costing only $9, so I want it for $9. So there is an offer, and there is a counter offer which has been given. For the discussion sake, let us understand that the the person is agreeing to give it to you at $9. So what has happened? You both have reached to an agreement. So that is exactly where we are trying to do it. What exactly are the things that this is not a conflict? Okay, you have to understand. You and the shopkeeper are not fighting for it. This is a process where you are trying to bring some kind of a mutually agreed relationship pattern for your transaction. So in that way, what is going to happen for the rest of it? Let us understand this. So you have actually given an offer, and there is a counter offer which has actually come, and you either accept the counter offer or you reject the counter offer. If you have accepted a counter offer, it means that the negotiation thing is over. So which means that the cycle is concluded. If you have not accepted, then the iteration continues. There will be an offer again, and again there will be a counter offer, either an acceptance from the shopkeeper, or he will make another counter offer. In turn, you are supposed to accept or reject it. This cycle continues. When it will end? When you arrive at an agreement. Okay. So if we are going to say, okay, I'm ready to arrive at a conclusion. Okay, we will have to understand that what are all the things that you have literally done now. Is it something which you have done by instinct, or is it a strategy, or is it something which is planned? So what is that, like we have to understand right now. What we have to understand is that is there a type, okay, of negotiation what we are talking about? Is there a classification? Is there something where I can compartmentalize the type of negotiation so that I will be able to understand it well? Let us probably consider two type of negotiation. Let us not name it. Let us probably say one with a straightforward saying that I want this, I cannot give you this. It is more like a disruptive thing, destructive. Okay. The other is where you try to build up a harmony during this process, where you are going to say that, okay, I don't want you to lose in this transaction, and I don't want me also to lose in this transaction. What is the best can we do? Can we try to find and can we try to understand things which can be put across, and then we'll be able to bring out some kind of a understanding towards that. Is- So it sounds pretty very logical, right? So what happens is two people are involved, similar, or two organizations are involved. If you are going to come back, if you are going to do saying that, okay, I don't care about you, I want my needs to be done. If you are an assertive person, and let us probably say if the other person is not an assertive person, if he is a guy who is very soft and he says that, okay, chalo, no problem, let us probably minimize my profit and then try to give it to you. What happens? You will get your price. Did the transaction go properly? Yes, because you got what you have got. But the transaction, did it go right? No, because what you have actually got is a one-sided transaction, more like a destructive transaction, where you have won, but the other guy did not win. Generally, what are all the things that is possible? Most of the time, most of the time, it depends on, let's say, two organizations, depends on the size of the organization. If, let's say, a very big organization is negotiating for a, say, tier 3 contract, tier 3 manufacturing contract with a very small SME company, do you think that the SME company has the capacity to negotiate with very strong arms with a big company? Absolutely not. Do you think the very big company is going to probably have a very equal, transparent, and then win-win kind of a situation? In most of the cases, no. So what happens is that the tier 3 contractor cannot leave the bigger company, because for him the bigger company is the livelihood. And if you compare it from the bigger company's perspective, the tier 3 contractor is just another contractor. Whether he is there or not, the bigger company can always get any other contractor. It's very easy for them to get it. So it is almost like a David and Goliath fight. So if there is a David and Goliath fight, okay, it doesn't actually work like the story. Generally, Goliath always wins. So what you have to understand is, during those periods, what is the kind of a road that you have to lay? It is not a one meeting discussion. It is a continuous process. It is right from reading of the RFP to getting your clarification, to your initial quotation, to your first level meeting, second level meeting, cost meeting. You will have to maintain a very steady strategy so that you will arrive almost very close to what you have lined up. This is in one side of it. Let us talk about another story. Let us probably say I have a company which is, let's say, $10 million, and I'm going and working with a client whose balance sheet is also $10 million. Generally, client is very important, so there is definitely a negotiation which is going on. But will it be like David and Goliath fight? No, it will not be. What will happen then? There will be a very common and a very transparent discussion where a long term plan will be live, and there will be a sacrifice in both sides. The company A will probably say that, hey, you know what, I cannot afford such big contract at the moment. Can we split this into two? The supplier company will also be very happy because they would like to work with a company which is growing. And if you're working with a company which is growing, the biggest advantage is there is always a possibility that the first preference will come to you. And once the preference is placed at your doorstep, the second time to get those deals back, it is not going to be very tough for you. And there you will stand up earning a lot of money. So there is a win-win situation there. That's the second type of negotiation which we have just seen. So this is exactly what is called as a strategy mix. What are all the problems that we actually have during the strategy? Let us understand this problem. Let us understand from the psychological perspective first. So you are a business owner and you are coming and trying to do a negotiation with me. If I am going to probably uh, capture you with, because I'm a very big shot, and I'm going to capture you with my condition, what happens is that there is a lack of trust factor which will be going on. Tomorrow, I will not be able to come and freely discuss few things with you because I did not give you even a very small mileage. And in terms of IT, we call it as scope creep. If there is going to be an increase in the scope, even to the tiniest of the bit, the supplier is not going to accept it because already the margin which is being given to the supplier is extremely less. And being extremely less, they have no other choice but to reject your offer, or they will take your offer, but they will use your offer only as a stepping stone. They will probably add your company in their portfolio, but the intention of continuing that bigger company as a portfolio will not be there. They'll be using this to source other clients, and then they'll be waiting for an opportunity where once their balance sheet is becoming safe, and once your project is getting delivered, they may not come back to you. They may not come back to you. This is this is like one time victory and a very long time failure for even for a bigger company. We can always say that, hey, I'm a big company, I can get 10% like this, 20% like this. It is possible, but loss is a loss. A person who can understand your project very well, if he is not willing to come and do the project again, it's your loss. So what is going to happen in future? You have to find out a method, you have to find out another method by which you will have to procure another supplier. So it all begins once for all. Okay, so what is the matrix which is going to determine that? It's, as I told you, it is only two things. The issues are nothing but the parameters. The issues are nothing but the parameters and the relationship. Okay. Here, negotiation, one thing let me tell you, like we always call it as win-win or something like that. Uh, Generally, what happens is in 90% of the cases, one party may not be as happy as the other. So, based on that, if we are probably putting a matrix and we are going to say that, okay, how can we probably change and understand this matrix? So, there are four quadrants. One way is the relationship, and another way is the issue. So, higher you go is positive, lower you go is negative. Is the situation clear? Now let us understand. Let us probably have a story for each of the cases. So, you want the relationship to be in an extremely close pattern. Okay. On the same time, if the issues are going to be very high also, what happens is you understand the need for a very long term partner. And because of the radical nature of the issues or radical nature of the parameters or radical nature of the requirement, they are also understanding that yes, if I am going to be with this person, it is going to be beneficial for me also. And in that case, it is going to be the first quadrant where you also win, they also win. So this is where we call it as a win-win situation. Can we see a very small story for that win-win situation? Let's start with positive. Okay, the story is like this. You are a startup. Let's say you are a startup and you are doing you are doing some mechanical component. Being a mechanical component manufacturer, getting a bigger company maybe a very big challenge for you. Let's understand that a bigger company, car manufacturing company like Hyundai or Toyota, Nissan, they are calling you and you are pitching some project with them. There is something very specific about that. Let us probably say they want some kind of a door to be manufactured, and it happened to be that you have got the exact setup for that. They understand that you are a very good match for that particular sourcing. According to you, as a starter, getting company like Hyundai is is a bonanza. It on the first day, the entire value of your company goes skyrocketingly high. So what will you do? So you have a very huge advantage that Hyundai is going to be your client. According to them, they are going to have a huge advantage that they are going to get a person who exactly does what they are wanting. All other companies maybe 10%, 15%, 20% there is a deviation. Luckily, according to them, you are having the perfect product. So the relationship expectations of both are very high. Remember the matrix. The relationship expectation is very high. Okay. The issues and parameters are extremely low, or probably it is on the meeting point where because you have got exact product what they are looking for. So there is no problem in negotiation. There is no problem in is the quality correct, or do you have the different dimension and things like that. It, so what happens? It's a win-win match. So the expectations of that is also going to be very long lasting. You are not going to screw up that relationship. Okay, so what is next? So let us then come to the lower part. The relationship expectation is extremely low, and your issues are also matching. So, which means I need, as a bigger company, or as let's say company A and company B, company A, I need you for the first time, and for the second time, I may not need you, or rather, I would say I don't need you. So, how that negotiation process will happen? Just think. Can we do a story on that? Let's say it is more or less like a one-time deal. That is a fantastic example for this. I just recollected. Okay, in a lot of website companies, okay, once the website development is over, they will come and try to pitch for a AMC, annual maintenance contract. Many a times nowadays, the company will pitch it with the package itself. But most of the companies, they will not pay that. They will say that, okay, let me just worry about it as soon as the website is done. So the website is done. So you are now going and asking them, saying that, hey, you know, now is the time where we have to discuss about the AMC contract. That's the time where, according to you, you need the AMC contract because your main billing is over. You need some kind of a sustenance of the billing because being a website developer, it's almost like a turnkey project where once you have done, you have handed over, you have nothing else to bill. So your expectation is on the relationship is going to be high. Rather, I would say your expectation of conversion of the relationship is going to be very, very small. And the issues in which it is going to come is also going to be very, very small. So in that case, what is going to happen? The website development company, most of the cases, they may decide that let me think about it. They will say, let me think about it, I will come back to you. Generally, we know whenever the answer is given as I will come back to you, it means that they never come back. Isn't that the case? Most of the cases. So in that case, what happens? As a bigger company or as a company A, I win this negotiation. But the other person, the expectation was there, but he may not be able to convince you because you have identified that the need for annual maintenance contract at the moment is not there. So he loses. So this is one type of contract, this is one type of the matrix. Let us go to the other side of it. Let us probably say that the same kind of an expectation on the other side is there. Let's say you are creating a product where there is going to be a continuous upgradation of activity. Continuous. Let us say something like press. You are creating something like a editorial website, something like that. What happens there? The dependency of the IT is very high. So once the dependency of the IT is high, you have no other contract but to get into the AMC. The other way of looking at it is the security consideration of the website is going to be very high. You need the IT guy to stay on with you, and then so in that case, what happens? He will dictate the term. He will say that no, 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 no. You will have to pay this money, X amount of money. This dollar has to be paid right now. You will have to buy this machine. You will have to buy this server, this firewall, external firewall, internal firewall. Everything he dictates. In that case, what happens? Whatever he says, you will be doing it. In a long term, you also know that it is a win for you. But during the discussion process, they win. I wouldn't say you lose, but you sacrificed a bit more than what they have sacrificed. So we have seen three conditions. What is the obvious third condition? As I started by saying that negotiation is not only to have a happy ending. It is for conclusion of a discussion. So the conclusion of a discussion can also be negative, where you are going to lose something, he is going to lose something. And if this becomes the agenda of the deal, then the deal will happen. You will lose X amount of money, they will lose X amount of money, and they will say, Chalo, not a problem, we'll try to get this converted at least for one time, and later we will try to figure it out. In that way, like the project will keep on going, the agreement keep on going, and yet there is a process where we you have literally taken a decision that we both will take some kind of a loss or some kind of a cut. So in this way, we can categorize the entire negotiation strategy into a matrix. Okay, so generally what happens, can we make this into a concept, and can we probably make this into something which you can understand into something like a pointer? Is it possible? We'll try it out. We'll try it out. There is no hard and fast rule in it, but we'll try it out. What are all the things that you have to keep in mind? One is that if there is an offer, you have a choice of accepting the offer or rejecting the offer. This is from the buyer perspective. Okay, so you are the recipient. So the offer is made. Okay, you can accept it or reject it. What is the second thing? You can better the offer to your terms, and you can put it as a counter offer. If the other person is going to accept it, then it means that the discussion is over and you win. If your offer is not so good, and if the other person is feeling that he is not winning the deal, then he is going to say that no, I'm so sorry, thanks, not going to work. So the deal is collapsed. So this is a straightforward way. The other way is, let's create something like a cloud, where you are going to say that, instead of saying that if you're going to give me a $10, I'm not interested. Instead of saying that, you're going to give something like a zone where you will say that, hey, you know what? This is my zone. This is my, from A to B is what I'm looking for. Okay. Try to bring somewhere in between that. So you are allowing some kind of a play feel for the other person. And he is also understanding, and he also has a band. He will say that from A to B is my band. Why not we try to, bring in between that? And there is a very small region where it's almost like the intersection region of a Venn diagram, where you both match. Somebody will say, okay, I want it at 500. He will say, no, I want it at 400. And then natural is that we expect to close at 450. Isn't that logical? Isn't something? Okay, it may not close at 450. Sometimes it will go close at 480. Sometimes it will close at 410 also. So what is happening in all these things as a process is nothing but a very serious game show, where understanding each other's psychology, the other person is playing the game. Now you will understand how I'm bringing it now and where I'm going into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very simple game. So, how can we make it better? How can we understand it much more better? Let's play a game. There are three balls, and let's say red, green, and yellow. And there are three persons, A, B, and C. Each of the person is allowed to take whichever ball he wants. And if that same ball is being liked by other guy, he is given an option to talk to the other guy, come to an agreement, and then close the deal. That's all is the negotiation. You don't need a very big management book to teach it. The two concepts what I actually said apply to this game. We have been playing this game every day. As human beings, we fight for our rights. Like in the morning, like if somebody is going to offer you tea, you're going to convince them saying that, hey, you know what, I want coffee. You will take some points and then, you try to win an argument. That is negotiation. So, what is going to happen? The three person, let's say two people like the red ball. Like how the conversation is going to be? They are not going to fight. They are not supposed to fight. So, generally, what happens in that negotiation process? The first thing is you would be first starting with saying that why you should have it. Basically, you are going to qualify yourself as the potential personality to win the competition or win the argument. And that is where the first is the self branding is being portrayed. Ladies and gentlemen, just keep this game in your mind. This will solve the most complicated negotiation classes at all. Very simple game. I keep this game in mind every time that I go and pitch my project to some very big company. I'm going to first say, hey, you know what? I need that red ball because red is my favorite color. Generally, this is how you start. So, what are you doing there? I'm characterizing my personality there. I'm bringing my persona, buyer persona into that. Equivalently, if at all we are going to compare to the organization, what happens? The organization will start and tell that, you know what, we are a 25-year-old organization and even we have been in the market for 13 years or 14 years in this. We know what we are talking. What are they trying to do? They are trying to do the exact thing what I did with the red ball. They are characterizing their position as a brand and they are trying to create a level high to set their benchmark saying that, you know what, this is my benchmark and I'm already there. Okay, now the counter comes. The next guy comes. Generally, in this case, what the other guy says, no, 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 red is my favorite color also. And I am the one who first touched it. So, same characterization is there. What is the second point? What you have qualified your character and you have placed that this is my, persona, buyer persona. And what are you doing next? You are filtering yourself as the best candidate to be chosen. Let's put it up across to the actual negotiation process. After this company says that I'm 20-year-old company, I'm already there, we know exactly what will be the counter. Hey, you know what? The quotation what I have given is the best, and the product what we are having is the best. We are offering you something exclusive, and we have been doing this, and our reputation. So you have qualified, and then you will go one step forward and say that You also know that the kind of a delivery that we have been giving or we have been giving in the market as per the market news is one step above my competitor. So what happens is that as soon as the qualification is over, more than the buyer, okay, you are putting one level more and say that, hey, I know I'm the best, and you also know I am the best. The psychological game starts. Very interesting topic, right? The video may be very boring, but if it is a direct lecture, it'll be an amazing topic to talk. So what happens now, ladies and gentlemen? So you have literally started playing poker. You are now, capturing them. You are calling them into your zone, and you want to play with them, and you want to move them based on your activity. And then they are going to say that, okay, fine, I agree that you are a good person. You also like red. I also like red, and you are the first person touching. Okay, but what do you need if I have to take the red ball from you? And that is the counter offer strategy which is starting. So there is a band. Now you relate it to the concept. This simple ball game can break the entire negotiation technique to you. So the band is being given. He will say that, hey, you know what, I will give you my ball, plus I will also give you, let's say, something else. I'll give you my toy. The same thing is going to happen in the boardroom also. They are going to come back and say that, you know what, I'm not going to increase your price, but I will give you a leverage. I will make you as one of our dedicated suppliers. So every time there is going to be a requirement, you are going to be the first person to pitch it. So in many cases, becoming a supplier, registered supplier is a huge deal, very huge deal. So in those cases, this is a fantastic deal. So if it works for that particular company, they will definitely take it. Not only that, they will also be playing the same game where, like they are going to, like say that, okay, fine, we are going to do it. So there are three types where, like we can actually work on this offer and counter offer. One is manipulative, win-win approach, good intention. What are all the things which are there? Obviously, like aggression will be there, intimidation will be there, exploitation will be there, demeaning will be there. If such things are there, the deal will not get through. As I told you on the win-win approach, if you remember that startup with a exactly matching door, there is a cooperation, there is a trust, there is pacification, and there is a long-term goal which will be set. And that is how, ladies and gentlemen, like things will work. It is not going to be a one-way road at all. Not possible. And to build this, is this going to be a straightforward thing? Okay, let's go, come set up, let's start negotiation. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It has to be evolved. How are we going to evolve it? Let's see. So generally there is a opening process. So there is an offer which is put, and then there is an exploration. You both are going to start talking and then understand the nitty-gritties of it, and then that's where you will start your movement. You are going to start throwing your strategy to them, saying that, this is exactly what I was looking for. Like, I'm sure I will be the best supplier for you. This is going to be a long-term relationship. This is going to be a successful relationship. As much as possible, try to create some kind of a positive reinforcement into your process. That is something which I do. Let me give you an example. When we started with London Olympics, our, our involvement was indirect through another company, but we did the pitch. What we actually did is we created a model which is self-sustaining for them. We created a model in a way that we went to them and we said that, hey, you know what, we are a very small player and this is what we are going to do it. And I know that I will not be able to win next time or not. But I want to give you a solution which will probably give you a fair amount of idea how to evaluate your supplier, for all the years to come. So, as an underdog, we went and we pitched like an underdog. We call it as positive submissive strategy. We could have went and bossed it around because the company which gave us this particular chance is a very big company. We could have piggyback on their brand and then we could have just floored it. We did not do that. It is a very conscious thing that I took. That decision was taken by me, and I did the presentation. When I was doing it, I did a very very subtle underdog submissive positive presentation. We said that we'll be extremely happy if we get the deal, and these are our costing. This is the reason why we are giving the costing, and this is the reason why you should be going with us. And then we did not stop at that. And then we also said that according to us, this is the framework which will give you a best supplier. It can be us or it can be anybody. Try to fit this framework and then see if we are eligible for that or if somebody else is eligible for that. If you want to alter the framework, you can alter the framework. That's not a problem. That impressed them very highly because that's the amount of research that we did and we went and gave them. And till today, they are following that framework for choosing a supplier specifically for the activities what we did. It's not a framework which can, like anything under the sun can be judged. It's not like that. So what happened in that way? So we create, as soon as the opening is there, we went and we explored and we created a movement, and that is the movement. So what movement did I do? I did according to me because I'm the underdog. Giving a quotation or giving that is not the movement. Okay, the offer which is so good, which I gave, which they cannot refuse, is that I went so selflessly, positively subtle that I gave them a perfectly graded framework. Okay, which probably would have disqualified me also. It was a very genuine framework which we gave. And what happened? We closed the deal and rest is history. So this is one of the approach. Was there a negotiation? Yes, negotiation was there. But this is an example where, like I'm trying to give it to you because the negotiation is not, it's not always money. It is not always about closure. It is about creating a mutually agreed platform which will in turn enable a closure. So once the closure platform is being enabled, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, once that movement is being agreed by both the parties, closure will automatically come. Either you will decide that, okay, this is the time where I'm ready to uh, leave some extra lineage for those people, or they will decide that, oh, what a fantastic supplier he is. So let me probably grab him the way that he is coming. Whatever may be it is. Once that movement is being understood and the ethicality of the movement is being presented properly, the closure automatically comes. When I say ethicality of ethicality of the moment. It is up to the person's responsibility to explain to the other party that your intentions and actions are very pure and the actions are based to protect the relationship, not about money. Relationship. And once that happens, ladies and gentlemen, I can guarantee you 99% of the discussion gets succeeded. Why does one particular salesman in a company hit the record every time while others are failing? Because if you go very closely and understand the character of it, he will never try to sell a product. He will try to get a client. There is there is big difference in that. Sell a product is one way. Get a client is both ways. Whenever I say get a client, it means that create a relationship. And when I say create a relationship, it means a mutually understood, understandable, and mutually acceptable, well refined relationship. Where at some point in time they may realize that, like, okay, this is a time where I should allow my supplier to make some money. There may be a time where I will have to say that, okay, this is the time where I will have to sacrifice because my client is having a little bit of a problem. And during this COVID period, we all know that how much of negotiation is happening. We are negotiating for rent, we are negotiating for our salaries, we are negotiating for our clients to remain in the company. We are negotiating for the suppliers to give us a reduced pricing. We are negotiating with the government for reduced tax. So negotiation is everywhere. All sort of discussions to arrive at a mutually convenient and mutually satisfactory level of arrangement is negotiation. So every day, without even we knowing how much of a management thing that we are actually doing. Okay, next is very interesting. You know that like now I have told you how the negotiation everything works and things. Is there any tactics where you can play? Is there any like magic wand which is available, which is there? There is something called influence management. If possible, I will take a very detailed video of influence management also, where in a meeting when you're going, you'll have to put your firm personality on the table. You have to say without telling orally, you'll have to prove that you are also one of the influencers. Is it possible? Absolutely possible. I will be very happy to teach you all those things. Let us go into the tactics part. So what is the tactics that we are talking about? When we are going to say a negotiation tactic, it's almost like a character. It's based on who you are. So let's say, see, the first thing according to Muhammad uh, is highball, where you create the first offer itself so nice that the client may not even decline it. So what happens is that two ways to it. Either the client will not bring it to you so down that you will end up in making a loss. So, example, if your break even is at, let's say, $50, if you are going to quote $100, the client may probably come down to, let's say, $80 or even $60, but he will not come down to $40. That's the type. Will it work? I have no idea. Try it out, because it may work in few, it may not work in few. It may probably be one of the best strategy in few of the things. The reverse, the next is the reverse low ball, where you can start your bidding extremely low, which means that there is always a possibility that the client may not bring the competitor angle to your bidding. This will work for few, this may not work for many. It is up to you. The next strategy is big fish. Present yourself as one of the big influential factors. What happens then? The client will not want to lose you. This is this is one of the things which actually happens in a many places. You will be wondering. Some companies are just a startup, but they will project it as if they are the biggest company in the world. You will be laughing at it. You will be thinking, why is he doing like that? But it is actually a strategy, because he has already won, because he has started making you putting his company in your mind. And then you will start doing research on why is he doing that, and then there is a traction which can be generated out of that. You create that larger than everybody in a kind of a figure. Then something which many people do, not ethical, but you can just bluff, which is basically like you can probably say all the things about like they are the great, and like this project, if they are able to get it, you would be so blessed. All those things, like try to like cool them off. Will it work? You'll have to check it out. Okay, so there are possibilities where like if at all two or three people representing your organization, you can actually do the good cop bad cop also. I wouldn't suggest. Okay, because according to me personally, agreements are one form. It is good for safer side, but beyond that, trust, confidence, and ethical handshake will only take relationship for a very long time. And if you have to create a good negotiation tactic, a longer relationship is very important. And that is also a reason why like we should not be worrying about a quicker close. Okay, so we have now understood. Okay, everything is fine, perfectly fine. So I'm one of the person who is going to represent, and then I'm going to go and start doing the negotiation. What are all the qualities that I may have to work on? The typical negotiation requires is a problem analysis, where you will have to understand exactly, break it down, and understand what exactly is the requirement and things like that. Active listening, verbal communication, very important. Decision making, ethical, ethics. I keep on telling this word called ethics. It is, ladies and gentlemen, it is very easy to cheat. Very easy to. Okay, it can either be supplier, it can either be the client also. It impacts the client also. If the client is not respecting your work, if the client is not respecting your output, if the client is not ethical, walk out from the client. It is not always about money, ladies and gentlemen. It is not about money. In business, it is always two-way street. Whatever that you actually give it, they have to respond it back. Other things like preparation, emotional control, collaborative activity. Like always think as partnership, not as a transaction. Think like a partnership. Interpersonal skills. and problem solving. What is the problem solving? Is it every time is it going to be a problem? No. Whenever it means there is a problem solving skill is required, whenever somebody says that, it means that you should have the knowledge and the tactics and you should know the strategy to push the idleness which will come in the discussion. It is not a problem. The idleness is generally when there is an offer and there is a counter offer, there is going to be a vacuum of discussion. You will have to understand how to continue the discussion, how to continue the dialogue. In some ways, like the opponent is going to come and say that no, nothing doing, I'm walking out. It happens, it will happen more regularly than you even know. And you will think that if somebody is saying that no, nothing happens, I'm walking out, it means the end of the story. Absolutely not. 80% of all bigger meetings happen like this. If you're going to close $1 million deal, okay, why put a number? Even if it is going to be $10,000 deal, okay, it is a precious deal for both of you. The emotions are going to run very high. One or the other party is going to get bursted out, and then like the emotion is going to run all over the boardroom. People are going to walk out. Okay, they are walking out of the discussion and not out of the deal. How to bring those discussions back? Again, you need a problem solving skill. So, through negotiation, we have literally gone and we have understood a whole lot of activities. We literally, created a caricature of a good negotiator. This learning, ladies and gentlemen, nobody can teach you. Whatever that I'm telling you, okay, I'm trying it to simplify everything and then I'm giving it to you so that you can apply in your own style, in your own formula, and in your own design, in your business, in your life for that matter. And then you can bring a very satisfactory discussion. Win or lose is up to you and your mind. Win for you, maybe a lose for me. Win you think is something which I may not even consider as win. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have understood at least something about negotiation. This is one of my very favorite topics. I am a very, very hardcore, pure salesman, and one of the things which I never compromise is I never compromise to shamelessly talk about my company to anybody. And that is something as a startup owner you should have. Never hide your company. Go and talk to as many people as possible. If they are laughing, you don't care. Let them laugh. This is your company. And every time you go for a meeting, this is my personal advice, ladies and gentlemen. If you are going for a meeting, let us let's say you are doing two, three services in your company and you are going for pitching for service number one. Never stop with just pitching one. Whether they like it or not, try to fit somewhere in your presentation about two and three also. And always leave a lot of materials in their hand. In that way, what happens is, even if the material which you are giving may not be useful at the minute of the discussion, sometimes later in the future, if they have some requirements, who knows? Maybe this literature will probably get you into services two and three also. In this way, we can actually create a wonderful branding. Does negotiation and branding have a relationship? Absolutely yes. Branding is not only advertisement, branding is the character of the company. So, a salesperson technique to negotiate will be associated with a brand. I hope this negotiation video, a very long video, but I love presenting it to you. I hope you also have the same kind of excitement what I had during this entire presentation. I hope this video you like. If you like it, subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, share it with all the students, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much.